I don't want to I don't want to beat around the bush here. I think that the response to this, at least in the fourth ward, has been an absolute failure. Um, I think there's two reasons I can come to mind with that immediately show that. One is that 10 days after this storm, I'm still snowed in my house. I live on a hill route and I cannot go anywhere. I think the other uh, thing that's indicative of the size of the failure here is that there's 104 attendees on a public infrastructure committee hearing. Um, I heard the director say that we're looking at doing this per request. That's not a way to do things in a city this size when you're talking about a plowing route. Uh, I'll just put in a CSB request for every street in the city then. You still haven't touched hill routes, actual hill routes that are designated hill routes on the map in the fourth ward. I know because I live on one, I live at the end of one, and there hasn't been a truck that's gone by. Um, we're talking about hill routes that have not been touched in. I mean, some of them now. I've heard from some residents that they're finally seeing a salt truck come through 8, 9 days after the storm. And no one's asking for their residential streets on these hill routes to be plowed, but at the bare minimum, we need them salted. The city used to have big boxes of salt out so that people could salt these hill routes, even without the streets department necessarily having to do that. Director, can you tell me why we got rid of those boxes, or is that before your time?
That was before my time. I couldn't even tell you what you're speaking of.
Uh,
Okay, yeah, there
and,
used to be.
Alderman had,
and Alderman Ryan, as I guess the old guy down here, we used to have those around. The problem that they found out when it came time, they were usually filled with sand, but when it came time to use them, most of the neighbors had emptied them to use the sand for their own personal regards back in the 70s and 80s. So when it came time to use them, they were empty or usually full of trash. So they found out it was not a good thing to do.
That makes sense. But yeah, that being said, I mean, we just need these. If you look at that interactive map and you look at the fourth ward has more hill routes in it than I think the rest of the city combined. And the fact of the matter is that the city just did not do a good job on these hill routes. It continues to fail the residents on this. It's killing businesses right now. Business is down. Basically, every business owner and restaurateur that I've talked to in the fourth ward says, "Yeah, well, people can't get here and they can't park." It's been all over the news how bad the streets in the city are. So people from the county aren't coming into the city right now. The amount of phone calls that I've gotten from people, phone calls and emails about people who have said, "I don't know what I'm going to do about my groceries or my medicine." We're talking about 10 days. This is just an absolute failure. And I know that other places have seen, some the routes open up and that they don't have as many hill routes. But here where there are all these hill routes, it just, the job didn't get done. And I think to say anything less would just be gaslighting the general public. I'm hearing from nurses and first responders who can't make it into work. It's just an overall bad situation. And I normally, Director, I would encourage you to come to the fourth ward and look at it. But I'm asking you to not do that because the roads aren't passable. What I am asking for is for you to send trucks to salt these hill routes. I don't know how much clearer I can be. And thank you again for your time and for being here. And with that, I'll yield.